how do you guys convince to your clients to make these risky, visuals and proposals, because they're like extremely artistic and abstract at the same time, and it's hard, right, to convince a client to say like, you know what, we have this concept, we have this idea, and they say to you like, like, okay, let's go for it.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, for what I see from your work is like, it's very the concepts are really.
I know what you mean.
I know what.
Yeah. But the thing is, I think we discussed this with someone a while ago, and I think back then they phrased it a little bit like, how do you educate your clients?
Correct.
This way, and I think it's a question of reframing it, because that doesn't work. So I think let's say no one is gonna take a risk just because you say so. So I think it's important that you take that risk or this first step yourself in your practice or in your studio. You put some projects out there that kind of prove the point. And in German, we have this term Gestaltungswille. Like literally, it's a bit brutal, but it means like the willpower to design, to make something, to put something into this world. So, and I'm not saying all the time, but eventually there are moments when you need to say, okay, this is my thing. I'm going to put my stake in the ground. I'm just going to do this regardless of how bad the budget is or the timings or whatever the conditions. They're never right. They're never right for it. So sometimes you just have to say, okay, let's go for it. And you do that. Usually you find all kinds of resistance and people are going to discourage you and say, no, it can't happen when it's too expensive or this and that. But sometimes you just have to do it. And in hindsight, people will be thankful. People will say, oh, that was actually quite a good project. And the next client, the next one, then they just look at the website and they see the polished documentation and they think, okay, that's my expectation. That's what I get when I go there. So like literally convincing someone can be difficult. There's maybe a 50-50% chance it goes wrong. It happens all the time. But I think what you can do is you can sort of put yourself into a lane that you think that's what you want to do. And somehow things will fall into place.
And one other thing that I was also, talking with the students from the HQ is that somehow it's very important to have your own projects from the studio, like personal projects. Those are the most valuable. And this is kind of like the secret recipe of a lot of the studios that I know, including yours. Like the very own project that you guys have doing for yourself as an artistic studio as well. Those are the ones who the clients also as well. They see them and they say like, I want something like this. I want Phil to make something artistic for me, and then it's kind of like a thing that it's been connecting from one to the other. I don't know if you want to talk about this, and probably you would like to share some of those kind of examples projects to the community as well.
How to best answer that? I think it has always been. Let me show you. So the thing, I told you that story about my mentor here in London. We did this first Crazy Interactive project. The thing is, before that, I was basically a graphic designer and a web designer or web developer. And it had not clicked that you could put these two things together and do something with it. That wasn't a thing. So at some point I knew how to create simulations and particles and those things. And we made a pretty cheesy like Christmas campaign with it. But then a little bit later, it was like 2 a.m. or so, I had this idea, hey, what if I take these particles and I trace them around typography and I create like a poster with particles made from light, creating the font essentially. And that was probably my first ever generative thing I've ever made. So it's a little bit old.
This is great. What year was that?
Is the sound coming through? Just wondering.
Sound? No, we don't hear any sound.
Okay, then no worries. Yeah, so this was like 2007 or something like that, or maybe 2008. Oh, 7. There you go. So literally, this was like super low level. I think I was working in Java and Eclipse, and all the physics were, created from scratch, and figuring out how to do anything, you had to spend a few months building an interface first to create sliders and really trivial things. So it was like a long way. I mean, obviously now you can do that in 5 minutes in Houdini or less. But I think it's that research that was important, and going out and learning new things. And in a way, at the time, that just wasn't a thing people would do. People were still pretty much in a static mindset, I guess. And I think that's what was interesting. So the always trying to explore like new possibilities, and what can you do with that, new experiences. Yeah, that gives me personally a kick, and I think is also what creates the culture in the studio.
And I have a question about because I've been also having a studio myself in the past, and the more you start making works, the more you start choosing your clients and choosing your projects. At the beginning, like you just take everything that you can take, but nowadays, the more you start, growing up as a professionist, and also as a creative, the more you choose the stuff that you want to do and you don't want to do. And I wanted to ask you, how do you guys choose the work that you want to do or not? Is it something that right now you're also choosing some clients? Is it like how's this kind of like workflow, working these big brands? Because right now you guys are working with, like the most bigger brands that are in the world, from Meta to different kind of like different, people around. And it must be really, like stressful, difficult, but at the same time, like very, very great to start, with this type of projects.
Yeah, I mean, I think I obviously enjoyed that, and that's why we chose to make it a profession. I guess I just recently had a realization that, obviously now I'm obviously a singular person, but I'm representing a studio, and something that is maybe something I've done 20 different times, and maybe less exciting, can still be an interesting experience for younger members of the team to take on their own first project and really make something they've never done before. So I think I'm really also today thinking a lot about the team and the studio, and what's beneficial for the entire experience. Obviously, what pays all the salaries, but also what can push us into new directions or adds another dimension to what we're doing. So, like we were basically did a big part of this whole Meta relaunch, and what was exciting to me is to not just work on the logo and the motion design and launching that, but we spent about a year and a half later working on the physical formats, like how does it become real in their spaces, on their HQs? What is the meta version of the metaverse? How do interactive experiences feel like, and all these things? And you create this really big world of, perspectives. And there's like a consistent aesthetic thread through all of them. So I think that's something that is fun to me personally, to kind of see this more on a comprehensive view. More drones. I can show some drones.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Do you see this? Yeah, right now. Yeah, so we like to use drones in every scenario, whenever possible. Like in between these, some pictures we took in Death Valley and California. We had a big field trip, and I can share a little bit more. But we also use drones indoors for entertainment. Don't know if you hear the sound, but yeah, I think I consider myself an amateur photographer only, but I think it's always nice to get out of the studio and literally, yeah, do things in the real world and then bring it back, have some real experiences. It creates great bonding experiences with the team. For example, when you're standing on the top of a mountain and you delete your SD card with everything you shot on that day, and it's pitch dark. It's something you will never forget.
Damn.
But I mean, likely also pretty amazing things. But yeah, it goes in all directions.